right, welcome everybody. Today for the DJ Marketing School, we have a very special interview with Mr. Mike Walter from Elite Entertainment in New Jersey. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm great, Tony. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you here. You are somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a while. You have pretty well standing in the DJ community. You educate a lot of DJs. You're always willing to give back to the community and kind of improve the industry as a whole. So I'm excited to have you here. So really quickly, walk me through the beginnings of Elite Entertainment and what that kind of looked like for you.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for that saying that. I do like, if that's my legacy, I'm thrilled with that. You know what I mean? I started speaking on the circuit about almost 25 years ago now. And yeah, I love the opportunity to give seminars and give workshops and give back. As you say, this industry has been great to me. So just a thumbnail sketch. I started out with a multi-op back in the late 80s, and I was with them for about four plus years, learned a lot working with them, did sales, did operations, so as well as DJing. So I learned a lot, but I didn't like the direction that they were heading in. So a friend of mine had opened up Elite Entertainment, so he brought me in as a partner, and we started to grow the company for the first couple of years, but then he wanted to do other things in life, so I bought him out. And to be honest with you, buying him, I remember fearing buying him out because I had to go into debt. I had to sell my house and I had to borrow money, and I am debt adverse. So it was kind of a scary thing buying this guy out and kind of having this, debt hanging over my head. But in hindsight, Tony, it was the greatest thing I ever did. He was so inconsistent as a partner. One day he was into the DJ business, one day he wasn't. One day he wanted to be an actor, one day he wanted to. So it was just so great.
All over the place.
All over the place. So it was kind of great to get out from that inconsistency. And then, being in debt really made me focus on the DJ business and say, listen, now you own this thing 100%. So it's your baby. You can't blame anybody else if it fails, and you take complete success. You take complete credit if it's a success. And that really helped focus me. And, I always talk about how, especially the second half of the 90s, I don't remember a effing thing because I worked my butt off to grow Elite Entertainment, and I was recruiting people and training them. And it was, looking back, it was a glorious time. And it's the reason why I'm here and able to have a successful company, because I worked my butt off during that time.
That's awesome. And I remember you mentioning this on the PhDJ podcast a few times. When you started Elite Entertainment, you pretty much just went in and within the first year had like 5 DJs. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, so when I partnered with this gentleman, he had, I think, one other DJ working for him, but he was great at sales and marketing, so maybe you're going to want to have him on. But he was horrible at operations, and he was horrible at the people skills within the organization. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story. We were still partners when I first got married, my first marriage, and I went on a honeymoon. And when I went away, I was in the middle of training this young man who I thought was going to be a superstar. Good looking kid, great voice, nice guy, outgoing. I was pumped for this guy. So I come back from my honeymoon, and I'm just kind of, catching up with my partner. I'm saying, hey, so what happened while I was gone and everything else? And then he just out of the blue says, oh yeah, Steven quit. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, no, yeah. He goes, that kid's an asshole. He was super sensitive about something. And sure enough, my golden child, who I thought was going to be the next superstar, he got so sick of dealing with my partner that he quit. And so that was one of the examples of, this guy was great when he was great, but he was not good when he wasn't good. So it was good to get out from underneath him.
He was great at selling to clients, but he wasn't that great at like kind of establishing a workplace culture where people would actually want to
listen.
be.
Operations, and I know your focus here is about marketing, which we can certainly get to, but I'll make this point about operations in this DJ business. If you want to build any kind of multi-op, you have to learn to deal with talent. You have to learn to deal with DJs, which means sometimes they are divas, sometimes they are super sensitive, sometimes talent has to be massaged and cultivated. And that's a special skill set. And I didn't even realize it early on. I lost some great DJs because I wasn't great at that. And I and I got much better at it. And my track record is pretty good over the last 20 years, as far as not just finding talent, but then keeping it on the roster, which I think is critical.
I love that. And honestly, the reason I do these interviews is because I have a very wide scope of marketing, right? Mitch Taylor says it probably better than anybody I've met. What people say about you is your marketing. Everything from the mentality of the talent that you have go out to the systems you have in place to communicate with couples, the entire process from how they find you to you rocking out at their wedding to them leaving a review is really what I consider marketing. I mean, it's branding, it's the way that the business, the perception of the business, right? So I think all of
I would
that's
totally agree. I totally agree. And out of everything you just mentioned, I would put rocking your events at the top of the list. As a matter of fact, I think the number one key to marketing a DJ business is crushing your events, because personal referrals should help support your DJ business. You can, and then you can enhance it with social media and, getting out and networking with your banquet people who are going to refer you, and maybe even doing showcases. You can enhance it with all that. But if you and your staff are crushing your events every weekend, that should be almost half of your marketing right there, because you're going to make the phone ring.
bingo. It's funny because like if somebody were try to market or advertise DJ services and they suck at having events, that's not going to be very profitable for them
Correct.
at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're just going to end up in a deep hole. And it's interesting that you kind of touched on the inconsistency of your partner, because I tend to see that in DJs sometimes, right? Especially when it comes to their business. They get super gun ho about, hey, I'm going to start doing stuff on social media. And then maybe they do it for a little bit. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to start revamping my website. And I think the lack of focus hurts them a little bit. And one thing I've noticed about you is you are hyper focused on everything you do, whether it is speaking, whether it is elite entertainment. Is there anything that you have focused on specifically and kind of nurtured and put together the right way that has contributed the most to your business?
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question 100%, but
I
I,
don't
I
know if I'm
think
wording it correctly,
that's
so
okay.
that's
Well, listen,
okay.
I think if you ask me just number one, why I've been successful in this business, I think the fact that I've been able to cultivate talent and keep talent on staff is a huge reason. I think I'm a very good DJ. I'm not the greatest DJ in the world. I have met plenty of DJs who blow me away. I've met plenty of MCs who blow me away. So again, I think I'm really good at what I do, but I'm certainly nowhere near the best. But I couple that talent along with the unique ability, and it is unique, of being able to find DJs and train them, and then bring them onto my roster and keep them happy enough that they remain. A number of years ago, I started giving out 20-year plaques to my staff, and I've now given out 5 of them. And I don't know a lot of DJ companies that can say they've had 5 DJs through the years, and I've been with them more than 2 decades. And it's something I'm super proud of. I know a lot of multi-op owners who their number one complaint is, how do you keep DJs on staff? And there's a long answer to that, but a lot of it just has to do with treating them fairly and getting them the right amount of events.
The
But I'd
culture.
say that's probably the culture. Yeah, exactly. But I'd say that's probably the number one reason I've been successful, is just that ability to bring people in and keep them in.
Okay. I like that. And you have 18 DJs right now. And it seems like you're constantly training a lot of new DJs, or at least a group of new DJs, and you have a pretty set regiment for that. I remember you had was it an ebook, How to Train Your DJs for a Multi-Op? Is that what the book was?
So I've had a number of different training products that I've put out through the years. Some videos you can find them on djmikewalter.com. I also wrote a book called Running Your Multi-Op
That
a
was it.
number of years ago. Yeah,
And you had a
you can.
CD. You had a CD and an audio book of it.
It's 2 different. I do have an audio version, so you can
Okay.
order the audio version or the written. Yeah, that's something that I did a number of years ago, and it's funny. I just flipped through it recently, thinking, let me see if this needs to be updated. And I think the information is still very relevant, and maybe some of the technology things that I talk about, because it's kind of when I wrote it, it was really at the early stages of social media. So I talk about the importance of social media. But if I wrote that book now, I'd probably focus a little bit more on social media. But the people skills part of that book are still very relevant. I think they always would be relevant.
What does it look like for you when somebody comes up to you? Let's say they're completely green, they've never DJ'd before, and they're like, "Hey, I'm interested in being a DJ," and you maybe see some of that star potential in them, the outgoing personality, the love for music. What does that look like in Mike Walter's space when you begin training somebody?
It's funny you called me Mark Walter. That's my brother's name. So, and I can tell you in real time because I've got two people that I'm going to start training next month. So I'm super excited about that. So both of these people came to me like you just described earlier this year. One of them had a little bit of experience. One of them had no experience. I brought them both in as assistants to my current staff. So when you said I have 18 DJs on staff, those are 18 what I call headliners. So in other words, they do
So
their
you
own
have more
events.
that just go out.
Well, yeah, because we also I don't know if your market you do this, Tony, but most of our packages go out with a two-person package. So you have one
Mm.
main DJ and one assistant. So the assistant is really the perfect position to bring in a newer person because A, you get to test out their responsibility without the ultimate, you know, risk reward of them doing their own events. They get to witness firsthand a number of the successful events so that when I do invite them into training, they're pretty far along because they've already experienced it. And it's also just a great way to get their feet wet as far as starting to make money. They're not making headliner money yet, but they're making some pretty cool money on the weekends. And it's a great way to kind of jump into the shallow end of the pool before diving into the deep end, if that makes sense.
And then I remember you mentioning the role of a music mixer and an
That's the
MC.
assistant. Yeah.
That's the assistant. So
Yeah.
when they are just kind of beginning, they're coming out with the main headlining DJs, kind of getting more familiar with the way that the events go, maybe some of the equipment, maybe getting used to kind of playing music until they get to a certain point, and then you invite them to a training where you actually kind of sit in with them. What in those trainings, what are some of the things that you're going over with them?
So bridal party introductions is the key. That's the number one thing that we talk about and we rehearse and I have them perform it and then I critique them and tweak them and they do it again and then week after week after week. Because I've always felt as far as emceeing goes, if you can knock the ball out of the park with bridal party introductions, then you're well on your way to being able to MC pretty much anything. If I throw you into a corporate event and say, I need you to make this announcement. Well, listen, you've handled bridal party introductions. You can definitely handle that. And then the rest of training is focused on the music that we play, interacting with the guests, maybe doing some, shout outs and, clap your hands on the beat, that type of thing. I do still teach line dances. I know that some people are, hate that.
It's very polarizing in the DJ
Yeah, it is.
community
It's
now.
really polarizing. And not that we do line dances at every single one of our events, but I want my MCs to be able to do them for that client that says, hey, can you do the Cupid Shuffle? I've never believed as an MC that we should just go, and now here's the Cupid Shuffle and hit play and then don't say a word and don't get on the dance floor. If my clients ask me to do a line dance, then I am out there leading it, counting it off and doing the line dance with them. And that's the style that I teach my MCs.
Okay, I love that. And then after they go through that training, is there still kind of a little test period where maybe they have training wheels or maybe they are still going out with the main headlining DJs, but then kind of taking a little more of a driver seat role?
Yeah, so the two people that I'm going to be training this winter, I'm going to be starting in January with Maggie and Bobby. And assuming that everything goes well, by April of 2023, they will be ready to do their first events. Now, when you say training wheels, to me, what that means is their first few events won't be weddings. They will be, birthday parties, sweet 16, that type of the graduation party, communions, those types of things. Because listen, I don't want to focus on the negative, and I never do. But if someone's going to completely screw up an event, I'd rather them completely screw up somebody's 21st birthday party than somebody's wedding. So they're
Yep.
getting started on kind of like as far as the echelon goes, not the most important events. But once they're done with my training and once I rubber stamp them and say you're ready to go, I believe that they are absolutely ready to do any type of event.
I love that. So as soon as they get the Mike Walter stamp of approval, they're going out in the
Yeah,
world and they're rocking their own events.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And by the way, that's not just what I believe. History has proved me correct. I mean, I just graduated 3 DJs earlier this year. All of them did their first events this year. And even their #1 event, they came back with glowing reviews and they're already starting to get referrals on them and things like that. So I'm very confident that I know my training program works.
Well, and that's the thing that I think really sets you apart in the industry is you have 18 headlining DJs. So a staff, if I'm doing the numbers correctly, each person going out with at least a second person. That's 36 staff that are going out to 18 different events on any given day. And usually, especially if a business has been operating for a long time, they have at least some negative reviews, some unhappy clients. I was stalking you, and literally there's like none. That there's just like non-existent. Like every review that you guys have through Elite Entertainment is just singing your praises, and to be able to pull that off at the scale that you have is remarkable, and it's cool. It's interesting to kind of get a peek behind how you train your DJs, because oftentimes that is what holds up a lot of DJs from doing that. Is it's difficult to kind of duplicate yourself. You have the 18 headlining DJs that are kind of at the same time going out with assistants and music mixers to kind of get them familiar. And then you also have a sister company that does videography and photography, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, how does that look kind of meshing with the DJ? When you guys are speaking with the client, are you kind of bundling that in order to maybe save a little bit of money? What does that look like?
Yeah, so both divisions really came about from clients asking us what else we did. I think our reputation is so strong in our market that when people came in to book a DJ, a lot of them, after they signed the contract with the DJ, they were like, this has been great. What else do you guys do? And going back 15 years, I guess, we said nothing. We can refer some people. And we finally just said, look, the demand is there. Obviously, our reputation is strong. So the video company and the photography company basically started that way. I'd love to say that I was this genius who saw into the future and saw how important content was going to be on social media. I can't say that. It was a complete coincidence. But looking back now, I mean, both of those divisions were so critical and are so critical still, because social media is a hungry beast and you have to keep feeding it. And I know so many DJs who say to me, Mike, I can't get photographers to give me pictures. I can't get video companies even the ones that I recommend, I beg them for photos and I never get them. And I don't have that problem. My problem is the exact opposite, Tony.
You have
I'm
too
backed
much.
up. I like to look through every wedding that we shoot, our photography company. I'm about 25 weddings behind because I'm just too busy. So I've got the exact opposite problem. And if you follow us on social media, I think you'll see we're constantly putting up great pictures on our Instagram, on our Facebook. I hired somebody earlier in the year who started a TikTok for us. And so we just have all of this great content, and a lot of that has to do with having those two divisions. So I talk to DJs all the time and they say, what could I do to help my business? And I say, you really should look into starting separate divisions.
I love that. And it's cool too, because looking at kind of the health of Elite Entertainment, right? You mentioned all the content going out on social media. Your website has blog posts that are regularly being updated and added, which is going to help the overall health of the website itself being found in Google and SEO. And there's just constantly content coming out of Elite Entertainment. Do you have a full-time staff member or somebody that is kind of under the umbrella of Elite Entertainment that is in charge of all of that, or do you hire that out to like an outside marketing agency?
So the social media we've hired an outside agency. Kristen is doing phenomenal work for us. Like I said, we didn't even have a TikTok channel earlier in the year. I probably shouldn't admit to that because it's kind of embarrassing. But she got us hooked up on social, on TikTok. She has helped our Instagram and Facebook marketing. And yeah, Kristen has done a great job with that. My office manager, Lynn, and I do the blogging. And yeah, my goal, Tony, is 2 blogs a week because I think, just like social media is a hungry beast, so is Google. And I understand the algorithms on Google, and you have to keep feeding it. You can't just put a blog
Hmm.
up one day and then go, oh, I'm done. That is one of the biggest things between old marketing and new marketing. Old
Yeah.
marketing, you would work out for months on a brochure, and you'd finally send it out to print, and then you'd be like, I'm done with this brochure. But social media, man, anything
Yeah.
more than a week old is too old.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing too, is because a lot of new marketing is really just kind of establishing habits, right? Like kind of establishing habits within your business that you can kind of do. A lot of times you always hear DJs, oh, I need to start spending money on Facebook ads, or I need to start advertising. When really there are simple habits that they could just get into, whether it be writing a blog post on their website, creating a post in Google Business, actually trying to get reviews and getting photos back from, like, there's so many habits that they can build into their business that actually doesn't cost any money and can have tremendous benefits when it comes to them being found online. And
Let me finish. Let me give Kristen a proper plug because I've only mentioned her
yeah, go
first
ahead.
name. Her company is thechronichustle.com. That's where you
Okay.
can find her. And one of the reasons she actually approached us. We did her wedding last year, and she was so subtle because she said she contacted me after her wedding. She said, "Mike, I loved everything about your company, dealing with you guys in the run up, and her DJ Nick did a great job." She goes, "But you need a lot of work on social media." And she was right because I'm a 50-plus-year-old man, and I'm doing social media my way, and I'm not my target market. Kristen is. Kristen's a woman in her, I think, her 20s, and she just got married. So I hired her and her company, and like I said, I've been super happy with that. And that would be my advice to, we as DJs always get frustrated when clients want to do it themselves, like the iPod wedding and things like that. Well, I think social media can be considered the same way. If you're not an expert at it, then there's nothing wrong with putting some money towards it. We have seen a drop in bridal shows the last few years. So in my mind, and based on my budget, what I've done is I've taken a lot of the money that I used to put towards showcasing and put it towards social media with Kristen's company.
Bingo. Around the time that you bought your partner out and then you kind of took Elite Entertainment under your full control, what did Elite Entertainment look like then versus what it looks like now?
I think we had about a little less than half the staff that we have now, and probably about a third of the revenue, because not only has our booking, our volume gone up, but also our price has gone up, obviously, through the years.
Hmm.
So I bought him out. We had a nice little multi-op going, and I have taken it from that to where we are today.
What were some of the things that you think contributed most to that growth?
So going back to what I said originally, I do think our staff performing and doing phenomenal jobs at their events is the number one important thing. We were at the time, I talked about how bridal shows are on the way down. We were at the time, bridal shows in our market at that time, 90s and 2000s, bridal shows were the way to showcase for weddings. And we had a performance at those that we used to just kill. Our staff was phenomenal at performing, getting people involved. We literally would have a room full of people doing a conga line and then getting up on the stage and doing line dances. It was wild, Tony. And I'm talking about like sometimes on a Sunday afternoon. So
Already had a
bridal
bridal
shows
show.
really, really help put us on the map. But also, I would say relationships with banquet people. We have some really great banquet people who love us and refer us, and those are relationships that we've nurtured through the years, and I think they've been critical to our growth.
Okay. Where would you say a lot of your referral, or not referrals? Where would you say a lot of your leads come from? Do most of them come from referrals? Are they kind of split down the middle? Maybe some finding
No,
you.
well, personal referrals probably account for close to half of our leads that come in.
Okay.
I saw you at an event, or my coworker said I had to call you, that type of thing. And then the other half comes from we do very well with SEO. So we do
Mhm.
get a lot of just people finding our website. We have a number of in New Jersey, there are a number of like bridal Facebook groups where brides just hop on there and say, "Hey, we're looking for a DJ." And we have a lot of our past brides who sing our praises nonstop. So that's kind of a personal referral, but with a new media kind of platform. And then, like I said, banquet halls are huge. Are the referrals from them really big?
I'll kind of tell you, and then I'll ask you a question. When I was starting my business, because I started my business in 2020, and one of the things that is frustrating, especially for newer DJs and DJs that are just kind of creating their business, is, and now I see why, but I didn't see then because a lot of DJs, they always say, oh, referrals, referrals, that's where you're going to get your jobs. But when you're a new DJ and you don't have those connections and you are kind of trying to start a business, it's difficult to get those referrals, right? So that was one thing that really kind of frustrated me, especially when I was starting. I was working at a marketing agency, so I was able to leverage my knowledge of Google and websites and social media to be able to get my first few events that ultimately led to me being on a recommended vendor list for multiple venues in my area. But for newer DJs who might be starting out and maybe don't have a big network of people that can refer work to them, what are some of the things that you would say if they are really hungry to get out and do more gigs?
So I have said this. Joe and I used to talk about this on the PhDJ podcast. If I had to pick up tomorrow and move to a new market, and this is going to be a really unpopular opinion, and a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, I would undercut price wise everybody in that market, and I would hustle, and I would not give away my services, but I would greatly discount my services
Hmm.
for the first year. Maybe get 30 or 40 events in that market and use those 30, not use those 30 or 40 events, because I still would crush it for the client.
Hmm.
But look at those 30 or 40 events as A, this is going to start getting referrals because I know I'm going to go out and crush these events and people are going to see me and grab my card. And B, hopefully I'm going to create some great relationships with the banquet people in the area because they're going to see me and go, wow, this is the new guy on the block and he can rock his events and he can do this and he can work with us and he's cooperative and everything else. So I would do that, and I would do that for about a year, and then I would say, okay, now those slash discounted prices are over. This is where I want to be because I've started to generate referrals. So when
Yeah.
when we see somebody in our market who is greatly discounted and greatly undercutting us as far as price go, I just say to myself, listen, as long as they're new, I don't blame them because I
Yep.
would do the exact same thing. Now, if it's a 15-year veteran doing that, I go, shame on you, dude.
Yeah.
If you've been doing this for this long and you still need to sell by drastically discounting your prices, then shame on you. But if it's somebody brand new, I can't blame them because I would do the same thing.
I love that. And it's so funny that you say that because when I started my business, one of the things that I did after building my website, getting everything together, I was charging about $1,100 and the going rate in my market's about 17, you know. I did the first few kind of at 1100 just to, like you said, get people in. I was trying to showcase the value proposition like, hey, I know I can crush the event. The website looked clean, it looked professional. It looked like the marketing agency I was working for built it. Through that, I was able to slowly raise my prices, kind of exceeding some of the people in my own market, you know? And I know I wouldn't have been able to do that if I just came right out the gate
Yeah,
charging what I am charging now.
yeah.
So, because nobody wants to hire a not working DJ.
What
Like
was
they,
your background before that? Did you come from a multi-op or what
so
was
I was working for Paul Widland at northernmichigandj.com.
okay.
And there were a few events that he referred to me between the relationship that I had with Paul, myself being in marketing, and I was also a member of a BNI chapter where we network and we kind of meet other business professionals. A lot of the people in my BNI chapter saw when I began building my business. So they were also able to refer some work to me slowly. It was very slowly though, because since I was kind of starting out new, they all knew that I was working for Paul as a multi-op because I was one of his main DJs for a while. And then ultimately kind of went off and started my own business.
So I think I missed the significance. You said you started that in 2020.
Hmm.
Could you have picked a worse year to start
Yeah, it
a
was
DJ
awful.
business?
It
Oh
was so
man.
bad. It
So did
was
you started it pre-pandemic?
so when was it? March of 2020 is kind of when everything with the
Oh my
pandemic
God.
kicked off,
Yeah,
right?
that's when everything
I
ended.
launched my website and I kind of waited till I had the website ready. I wouldn't say up, but I had the website ready and I had my social media accounts and I had all these assets that I was going to just kind of put out there. Those were ready November, December of 2019.
Okay.
So it was like November, December. So right before 2020
Right.
is when Northern Beat Entertainment, my business, started.
Right.
I had booked within probably like the first 3 to 4 months, I had booked about 22 weddings. And then COVID happened. And
Wow.
then the
And,
refunds, refunds,
and now you're
refunds.
rescheduling those 20. Wow. Uh, I'm shocked you're still in it because I think that would have been enough for me. I mean, I held on because at this point in my life, what the hell else am I going to do? It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like I can start another career. So I just remember during that year going like, is this ever going to come back? But if I was brand new at this, oh man, I think I would have taken that as an omen that this wasn't meant to be. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your first year in the business was so chaotic and not traditional. And I would say, you know what, the hard part for you, Tony, is you don't have anything to compare your growth to at this point.
No.
You know, if I want to, like, I do a lot of forecasting to make sure that we're on track to be, you know, where we should be. I'm going back right now to 2019 because to me that's the last normal year because
Yep.
2020 nothing happened, and in 2021 and 2022 more than usual happened because we were making up for the previous years. So to
Yeah.
me, 20, and you don't have a track record for 2019, so you can't even do that. You haven't really had one what I would call normal year yet in business. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
No.
I respect you for hanging on for these
Well,
3 years because it couldn't have been easy.
and the way that I saw it too is that like sooner or later this is all going to blow over. So I just kept grinding, I just kept doing what I was trying to do and ultimately it did, but exactly like you said, you know, it was difficult because 2021 there was this influx of rescheduled weddings and a lot of that carried over to 2022 as well. So next year is gonna be a little interesting, and it is difficult because I can't like necessarily project and be like, oh, this is how many I'm gonna do, you know.
Right. You
So
have nothing to compare to. You know, you just said something that reminded me. My first football coach when I played Pop Warner, he told us on defense, if you can't make the tackle yourself, hang on and wait for help. And I can't tell you how many times in my life I've thought about that. And I wish I knew this guy. I don't even know if he's still alive. This was, 40 years ago. Because I would call him and be like, you know what, dude, that was great life advice. There are times in life, and the pandemic was one of them for all of us, and not just the DJ industry, but anyone in the event industry, restaurant. All you could do is hang on and wait for help. And help finally came along. For us, help came along with the PPP program and then the vaccines with which helped get life back to normal or whatever. But there were a number of months in 2020 where it was just hang on, man. Like just, we can't do anything now, but just hang on and wait for help, you know.
I like that. I really like that analogy. That's a good one. Hang on. If you can't make the tackle yourself, hang on
Yeah,
and wait for help.
yeah.
Okay. Kind of looking at Elite Entertainment, you guys have, it seems like at least you guys have done a great job at really kind of cementing yourselves in the New Jersey market as the one of the go-to. Are you in the same market as SCE?
Yeah, I'm glad you corrected yourself and said one of the, because that is one of the things about this market. There's great competition in New Jersey. And I think that's a good thing because it just makes me and the guys from SCE and the guys from Golden Note and all the other great DJs in New Jersey, it just makes us wake up every day and work hard and sharpen our skills. You cannot get fat around the edges in this state because you will get run over in a heartbeat. And so, yeah, I think Elite Entertainment is certainly up there as far as our reputation goes in this state. But there are some great. I just saw Jack Bermeo last week at DJ Collective 2 weeks ago. And I mean, Jack is about an hour north of me, so we don't necessarily compete in the same, banquet halls and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just another reminder of how many phenomenal DJs there are in New Jersey. And I say that, and to me, it's a good thing because, like I said, it just keeps us all sharp.
No kidding. I mean, with a lot of those guys in your market, you guys have to stay on your A game. Every market is very different as far as the demographic that are coming into them, right? Some markets have a wide range of destination couples, where some markets are strictly local. What does the market in New Jersey look like? Is that locals? Is it destination couples?
Yeah, it's mostly local. I mean, I guess it doesn't even qualify to say destination. Our office is in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and so
Mhm.
we are very close to what everybody considers the Jersey Shore. I'm in my office right now. I'm pointing out the window. It's probably about 7 miles that way to Seabright, which is a big, beach town. Asbury is a little bit further down. That's a big beach town. So we stay fairly busy in the summertime, and a lot of our summer events are Northern Jersey brides who come down to the shore and have their wed. But we're talking about an hour away or an hour and a half away. We're not talking destination like get on a plane and fly somewhere. But yeah, we most of the events that we do are local Jersey people. We get some Staten Island couples that come down to the shore, and we go into New York every once in a while. We go into Philly every once in a while, but for the most
Okay.
part, we're a Jersey Shore company.
Okay. Is there kind of being in that market for so long and seeing competitors like SCE and a lot of the other companies that are in your market, it does seem like New Jersey has a very different DJ market than a lot of other places.
How do you mean different?
Higher scale. It seems like you guys have a lot of the premium DJs, right?
I would
Like the
agree with that.
DJs who are phenomenal at what they
We are
do.
rich with talent. I compare it to Chicago, and maybe it's just because of the DJs that I know in Chicago, but I know some phenomenal DJs in Chicago, and I always think to myself, wow, that must be just like our area, that must be a super competitive market where if you don't wake up every day and sharpen your skills, you're going to get left behind.
Is there anything that you think contributes to that in that specific market, or do you just think it's specific to the
I think it's
competition
I
that's in
think
there?
I think that it has a little bit to do with the density of population. I think whenever you get
Okay.
more people in an area, you're bound to get, more talent. But then I do think it becomes the competitiveness is what makes everybody rise to the top. I won't say the guy's name or the area that he went to, but a friend of mine moved out of New Jersey a couple years ago to a different market, and he is crushing it. And as he and I have talked about, he's crushing it because he went to an area, and and this is why I'm not going to say the area, but because really aren't like the best DJs in that area can't touch him as far as because this guy worked in New Jersey and he honed his skills here, and so he left here and parachuted into another market, and he's destroying it because he's so head and shoulders above the local talent. So if that sounds pompous to anyone, I apologize. I don't mean to sound pompous, but I just think it is what it is. There are a number of pockets in this. I would say LA is too. I know a number of companies and DJs in LA, which makes sense. All of the talent in LA. And I'm sure there are other markets that I'm not familiar with where the competition just keeps driving people to get better and better and better. That's definitely the case in New Jersey.
And I don't think it's pompous, because I think if anybody in the DJ industry like actually looks at where some of these guys are coming from, you can kind of tell that there is a pattern or certain guys in certain markets, just the way that they do things. I think it's just observant. So I don't think it's
And
pompous
by
at
the
all.
way, I will also then bring this back to one of my favorite subjects, which is attendance at conferences. One of the reasons why so many New Jersey DJs is that so many of us go to those conferences. Now, you could say which came first. Was it the competitiveness that made us go to the conferences, or is it the conferences that made us so much better that it rose the level? It's probably a combination of both. But I think one of the reasons why you and so many other people from across the country know that there's this like cluster of super talented DJs in New Jersey is that you see us at so many shows, and not just Atlantic City, DJ Collective, and when Mobile Beat was a thing. You know what I mean? You see us at a lot of these conventions. So that's why you're aware of it.
That's a very good point. So even because I know, like, when I went to Midwest DJs Live, there were four guys for my market with me. And I know, like, there's a handful of us that are hungry for conventions and hungry to continue learning and getting better at what we do. And then there are probably more guys than that. No, definitely more guys than that
Oh,
that
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
hang out in the
Yeah.
market and just
Yeah.
don't even.
I don't know what the numbers are, but I think it's about 10% of DJs actually attend uh, higher education. And so when you think about it, that means 90% don't. So that means
Yeah.
90% are either unaware, but at this point, if you're unaware, you're willfully unaware, or just see it and go, yeah, I don't need to learn anything else. I can't learn anything. I can't improve my skills. I can't improve my marketing.
That's
To me,
tough.
that's sad. I can't
Yeah.
imagine being in any industry and thinking, well, I got it all figured out. You know, listen, I went to DJ Collective 2 weeks ago. I did a microphone workshop on Monday. I spoke on Thursday. You know where I was Tuesday, Wednesday, and the rest of Thursday? In the conferences, sitting there with my
Mhm.
notebook, picking up notes, learning stuff. Because I mean, I'm doing this next year will be 35 years. I don't know everything, and I certainly, you know, I'm not so high and mighty to think I can't learn new stuff.
And the tough thing is like everything is always changing so rapidly. So you may have something figured out today, but as things progress, as
Yeah,
times change, as we move
absolutely.
ahead, especially with technology, you're gonna some things are gonna slip through the cracks. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
important to
especially with
educate.
social media. I actually did a seminar about 7 years ago about social media. I looked at it recently. I looked at my notes. Every single thing I talked about is outdated. You know, so, and that was 7 years ago. We're not talking about 25 years ago. That's how quickly social media changes. So if
7 years
you,
ago, MySpace was still
right,
around.
exactly. So if you think you go, oh, I got Instagram figured out. Well, you know what? A year from now, Instagram has changed what they're doing. And so what you had figured out ain't the case anymore. So yeah, you got to stay on top of this stuff nonstop.
Very true. Kind of going back to social media, Kristen, what was the name of her business?
The Chronic Hustle, and you can find her at
The Chronic Hustle.
thechronichustle.com.
So
Yeah.
Kristen at the Chronic Hustle is kind of the one that is leading the charge on a lot of your social media
Yep.
platforms.
Yeah.
What were you guys doing before then? Were you posting regularly? What were some of the habits that you guys
We
had?
were posting regularly, but more photos than video. And that's the
Okay.
thing that Kristen has really brought in. She shows up at a lot of our events and she shoots some stuff. And that's how she's gotten us up on TikTok. And we've actually had a couple of our videos go I don't know what viral defines, but we have one with 250,000 views, which I think is kind of cool. But we weren't doing any of that before her.
So she's coming in, recording some video clips.
Yeah.
Is she doing like your Facebook and your Instagram as well as
Yeah.
your TikTok or
Yep.
primarily your okay, so she's
Yeah,
doing
she's
all
doing
of
that.
those.
We enhanced the Instagram with some photos as well, like we still were doing, you know, before we had her, before we brought her aboard. But yeah, she's doing any of the videos that you see on our social media is probably done by her.
Is there anything that you've noticed that has had a lot more reach or a lot has been more effective on social media as far as like certain things that you post, whether it be a certain type of content or
Yeah,
s-
live video.
okay.
Kristen's funny because she does some of these TikTok trend type things with us, and you know she's had us spin around on the dance floor, and then she you know she'll shoot like 5 of our DJs doing that, and it's cute and it's a TikTok trend, but those things haven't gone viral. The ones that get the
Okay.
most views that we found are straight up she's shooting stuff on the dance floor, somebody going wild, the bride looking like she's having a ton of fun. Those are the videos that we're finding that are going viral.
Okay.
I laugh at some of the stuff Kristen wants me to do, and I'll do it because I go, "Hey, I don't, I'm here to help the cause, but I don't see how you know me holding my camera, my hand against the camera, or whatever." But and Kristen, if you hear this, I'm not knocking you. I love your adventurous spirit, but I just to me, and this is why we didn't have a TikTok account because I don't spend 1 minute on TikTok.
Right.
I've looked at it. To me, it seems like a bunch of half naked, scantily clad young
There's a
women, and I'm
lot of
like, I
random
don't.
stuff on
Yeah, and I'm like,
TikTok
I
too.
don't want to be watching that stuff. So, yeah, I've steered
Have you
away from
guys seen a big uptick from a lot of the TikTok videos, like a lot of inquiries, specifically in like the New Jersey area, or are you kind
I
of
can't
getting
say a
them?
lot. I can't say
Okay.
a lot. We get some through social media, but I but that doesn't mean I don't think it's worth it. I think having your name out there,
Mhm.
I think there are a number of people who hear about your company from whatever, a
Yeah.
past bride, a banquet hall. They found your website through a Google search, whatever. but before they even contact you, they go, let's see if we can, let's see what they're doing on social media.
It's social
And so,
proof.
right. And so even if social media wasn't the original driver to you, it's validation. It's a
Bingo.
client looks at that. It's the same thing with reviews. I mean, we get some clients that read our reviews and then contact us, and we also get some clients that contact us and then we say, well, read our reviews. So both
Yeah.
of them are extremely, even if it wasn't the thing that got them to contact us initially, it can often be the thing that helps close the deal.
Okay. Perfect. Looking at the 18 DJs that you have, and when you bought out your partner and you kind of began heading everything yourself, were there any challenges kind of along the way from going from like 5 DJs to 18 DJs? Were there any challenges in doing that?
Yes, I'm laughing because you told me this would be an hour, so we got about 10 minutes left, and we could do 3 hours on the challenges of growing your multi-op. But yeah, I mean, just suffice to say that working with staff, working with DJs is not easy,
Mhm.
but it can be very rewarding if you figure out how to do it and do it well. I'm not the only one. Certainly, I know plenty of other DJs who have built very awesome multi-ops and have done a great job of keeping talent on staff. But I also know a lot of company owners who have imploded because they just can't handle the balancing act that it takes to work with DJs.
Do you have any tips for DJs that are kind of trying to figure out that balancing act?
Yeah, I would say if you have worked for a multi-op in the past, how did you want to be treated?
Yeah.
This sounds very Christian, do unto others as you would have them do to you. But I would say probably very similar. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
if you started out, and that is something that when I started Elite or started with Elite, I had to think about that. I had to go, well, what did I like about how I was treated at Star DJs, and what didn't I like about how I was treated at Star DJs? That was the first company I worked for, and so I'm going to focus on the things I liked, and I'm going to improve on the things I didn't like. So yeah, I would say
Yeah.
just if you come from a multi-op background, then treat your DJs as you know what would have made you stay at that original company. Well, treat your guys that way.
Before we kind of begin wrapping up, is there anything that you would want DJs to know, whether they're new DJs, maybe more established DJs?
Well, before that, I want to know from you. So, what are we looking at behind you here, Tony? Is that are you a musician? Because I'm seeing an organ behind you. What
Uh,
um,
so
what do you produce your own music?
so I do. My
Nice.
background before I started DJing in 2015. And before that, I was really into production. I was making a lot of beats. I was working with a lot of local artists, and I was kind of in that like struggling artist pocket where I enjoyed what I was doing, but I couldn't figure out a way to actually make a real living off of it. And
Right.
when you have a daughter, which I did, you kind of
Yeah.
have to figure it out, you know? And this is a MIDI keyboard that allows me to play keys when I like produce a beat or play around with music. And then I have an MPC one behind me, which is kind of like a drum machine. The MPC is what a lot of the early hip hop tracks were made on. The drum pads, you can assign any sample to it that you want.
So, are you still producing music? Is it
Yeah,
still a
every
hobby?
now and then.
Nice.
It's more of a hobby.
Very cool.
But that's where a lot of my background came from. And I tell DJs this all the time because when I started DJing, a lot of the guys that I was working for, music mixing wasn't a thing for
Right.
them. You know, I bought my first controller in 2017. So I'd already kind of been DJing for 2 years just on a laptop and into a mixer. And then when I got the controller, I was like, oh my gosh, I can
Right.
actually do stuff. Like I
Yeah.
can,
Right.
like blend these tracks. I can set different cue points. I can chop it up like I do samples and have fun. So I thought that was interesting.
Very cool. So, yeah, I mean, anyone who's not in touch with me on social media, I'd hope that you'd find me on Facebook. Like I mentioned, my website earlier, DJ Mike Walter, which is where I have a lot of the products that I've made available for the industry. And do you know how quickly this will drop? Will it drop before the holidays?
No, it'll
Okay.
probably be a while. There's still a few other ones that are kind of
Okay.
backlogged. Now that wedding season is over,
You can
it's been,
start catching up.
yeah, I can
I
start
hear you.
catching up
Okay.
and getting a lot of them out. And that's going to be a big focus throughout this winter. So,
Okay.
and I'll let
Well,
you know.
either way, I'll just give a shameless plug. Let me see if I can reach it. Hold on. I wrote a book a couple years ago called On This Date in Music. It is not specific for the DJ industry. In other words, every story is not about a song that we play. It's not like you're going to hear "We Are Family" and "Celebration" nonstop. But basically, on every day of the year, I tell a different story about something that happened in the music business.
I love that.
Whether it's an album that got released or a famous concert that happened or things like that. I really wrote it for the music lover, which I think should describe pretty much any DJ.
Yeah.
You can find it on Amazon, but if you want an autographed copy, you can go to my website, which is the title of the book, onthisdateinmusic.com. And if you order it from there, I will be happy to autograph it and send it to you.
Perfect. And I'll link it in the description when this video goes live, both on the clips on YouTube and also in the Spotify podcast as well.
Great.
That has been Mike Walter. Mike, if DJs want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can email me, mike@eliteentertainment.com. Or like I said, I think the most popular way is to find me on Facebook. What am I, DJ? I think or just Mike Walter.
I think you're Michael Walter.
Yeah, Michael Walter 1. But yeah, look, if we're not connected, connect with me. I think one of the best things about social media is just being connected with a ton of DJs. And on Saturday nights, I scroll through and I see this guy's rocking this party and this guy's putting up this video.
Yes.
And we're in a fun business, and we should never ever lose sight of that.
I love that. That has been Mike Walter with Elite Entertainment. I appreciate you joining us today, and I will go ahead and finish out the recording.
Thanks, Tony.